Welcome to the Planet B podcast, where truth, transformation, and faith converge. Join us as we flip the script on ecological despair, guided by Dr. Sailesh Rao's vision for a compassionate, rewilded vegan world. Let's begin the journey to the greatest transformation in human history.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of the Planet B podcast. Today, we'll be taking an in-depth look at how we use the Earth. Dr. Rao, this is going to be a really fascinating episode.
Yeah, it's based on data from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So it is something that you can go verify yourself exactly how we use the Earth. And I begin with a quote by Ted Perry that says, "This we know, the Earth does not belong to humans. Humans belong to the Earth."
I love that quote. So why is that quote so significant to Planet B?
Because we have to begin looking at it the other way. Because right now we think that the Earth belongs to humans. We can grab whatever we want, take whatever we want, do whatever we want with it. And there are no consequences. And I'm saying, there are consequences to doing that. So we have to flip the script on that idea of enclosure. This is mine, that's yours. That sort of enclosure.
Yeah. So in the last episode, we talked about a little bit of how the Earth got to this stable state over the last 6,000 years with the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution. And now here we are today with this huge issue of how humans, as you state, are really competing over resources when this is quite unnecessary. So, Dr. Rao, how do we use the Earth?
We use the Earth in so many ways that are now responsible for causing this crisis that we are in. Okay. We have taken over 91% of the ice-free land area of the planet for our use.
Jeez.
Only 9% is original forests. Okay. That is the official record. And even within the 9%, I know that we have been doing a buzz cut on the natural forests. Because the United Nations has a rule saying that any 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer grid with 10% tree cover is classified as a forest grid.
Seems a little fishy.
So corporations have been taking forests and then doing a buzz cut on the forest so that you leave 10% of the trees behind and then use the rest for extraction. Okay, so that the UN classification is still a forest.
It seems kind of like a Planet A ideology. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And you see that I was looking at the satellite pictures and I'm saying, why the heck are we deforesting like this? And then it occurred to me, because you're still classifying it as a forest because you left that green clump behind. So that's how we are. You can fool yourselves, you can fool the UN, you can fool people, but you cannot fool nature. Nature gives you consequences for your actions no matter what you do. So now if you look at the rest, 91%, how we use that 91%. We think that we are so big, right? There are 8 billion of us, there are too many of us. People get into all these stories about how numerous we are. But in reality, all our built land, all our cities and our railroads and our highways and our shopping centers, and all put together is only 1% of the ice-free land area of the planet.
Wow.
Okay. If you were to concentrate all the built land and put it in one spot, it'll cover Madagascar. That's about it.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Right? 19% of the ice-free land area of the planet is deserts and mountains. So basically unused land. Okay? And some of the deserts, you could argue, used to be forests, they used to be green, and we desertified them. Okay? And so that's also due to the main use of the land. Okay, so I'll get to that. 22% of the ice-free land area of the planet is monocultured timber land. It's still classified as forests in the UN because it's just a tree cover. They're only looking at tree cover to say that's a forest. But it's basically monocultured. It's for timber, paper, and uses like that. So that's 22% of the ice-free land area of the planet. 37% is grazing land. And that's where our farmed animals are grazing. And then the remaining 12% is cropland. And so that's land we have cleared in order to grow crops for agriculture. And almost 2/3 of the cropland biomass. So we extract not only the grains from the crops, but also the crop residues. So 2/3 of that is going to feed our farmed animals.
Jeez.
Okay. So the primary use of the land on the planet is to grow farmed animals, not for human beings directly. And our farmed animals are only giving us 12% of the food we eat in terms of dry weight. Look at these statistics carefully, because you will see all kinds of different ways of expressing these numbers. Okay, I use the dry weight to dry weight. I say that for every 1 kg of food or 1 pound of food we get on our plate from animals, we had to feed the animals 39 kgs or 39 pounds.
That's shocking.
Food. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's dry weight to dry weight comparison. Now, you may have heard that for every pound of meat, you had to feed the animal 10 pounds of grain. Okay. 1:10. Now, you have to understand how they're doing that. That's 10 pounds of grain alone, not all food.
Right.
Number one. Number two, they're taking the actual weight of the meat, which mostly is water. It's not the dry weight of the meat. Whereas a grain has no water in it. It's already dried out. So you're comparing wet weight with dry weight. That's how you get smaller numbers. I mean, this is all animal foods put together, which is eggs, dairy, and meat all put together. You look at the dry weight. Then for every pound of dry weight that we eat on our plates, you have to feed the animal 39 pounds of food in dry weight. Okay? So please don't get fooled by these apples to oranges types of comparisons that they do. Because the industry is very adept at trying to con us.
That's such a crazy number. I mean, it's almost unbelievable.
Well, when you think about it, the animals have to basically grow. Yeah, watching an animal grow, watching yourself grow, it's a slow process.
Yeah.
It takes a long time for it to grow. And you have to eat a lot of food to grow. Okay, because you have to eat a certain amount of food just to maintain your weight.
Right.
And then you have to eat more food in order to grow, right? And so most of what the animal eats comes out as waste.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, if you look at the total amount of food we get versus the total amount of waste that comes out of the animal, there again, for every 1 pound of food we get from the animal was wasting 10 pounds of food.
So is that 10 pounds of poo to 1 pound of meat?
Exactly, right.
Now, how could anyone think that makes any sense at all?
Yes, there's 10 pounds of poo for every 1 pound of meat.
And then the excuse they use is that could be fertilizer. Oh, we've got all this fertilizer.
Yeah.
So silly.
Yeah. And most of what animals eat goes out as CO2. Basically,
Right.
they're breathing it out because they're metabolizing it, okay, just to maintain their bodies. So 1/3 of what they eat goes out as metabolized CO2. So our land animals are giving us only 12% of the food we eat in terms of dry weight. Our fish is giving us 3% of the food we eat in terms of dry weight. 85% of the food we eat is already coming from plants. Okay? And to get that 85% of the food we eat, we are using roughly 6% of the land area of the planet.
So does that mean that when you say 85% of the food we eat, that would be like all of humanity combined?
Correct.
85% of the food of total humanity is vegan, essentially.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. 85% of the food we eat is already vegan. So most land we are using is for this animal food production. That's number one in terms of land use. The next is timber. Right? So together we are using more than half, 56% of the land area of the planet, just for grazing our farmed animals and for timber. And if you include the cropland, it's 60% total. Okay.
So much.
Yeah. So that's completely under our control, meaning we can choose not to do that. We can choose to re-engineer that and make it better. So this is why every time we eat animals, we are choosing to continue destroying the planet. We are choosing to continue inflicting cruelty on the animals. Because by now we all know how cruel that system is. So it's a system that treats animals as if they're objects, that they have no feelings. We assume that they're like machines, right? And that's an old way of looking at animals. So as of 2012, even scientists have acknowledged that animals are conscious beings who have feelings, who have emotions, who have, they have similar lives as human beings, just as rich in terms of their sensory perceptions and their feelings. So I saw a poster carried by someone who said, all plants have protein, all animals have feelings, and all humans have options.
It's really good.
Yeah. Because it addresses why we think we have to eat animals, which is protein, that we need to eat animals for protein. And it addresses that animals are not objects, they're not machines, so they have feelings. And we have options. Because going from 85% to 100% using plants for our food is not such a big step.
No, not at all.
It's not at all
Not
a
at
big
all.
step. Yeah. And at the same time, you can address world hunger, you can address all the sustainable development goals, you can address all the planetary boundary transgressions, you can address animal cruelty, you can address human health, you can, my God, it's one simple step that addresses so many things simultaneously. This is why I call nature the perfect system design, because I haven't seen any other problem where I studied one single thing would solve everything. Yeah, it's just incredible how the system is designed. It's fundamentally about love. Love for animals, love for all beings, love for your fellow human beings. Because when we eat animals, we are deliberately causing world hunger.
Right.
Right? Because we are telling those people who are going hungry, no, that food that you were supposed to eat, I'd rather give it to animals and then eat the animals.
It's almost as if they're not as important as. That's so sad, but true.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the truth of it. We are taking away food from hungry children because we think we need to eat animals in order for our well-being.
Right.
Okay. And that is drilled into our heads in school, in the education system. Yeah. And so it also has undertones of racism, of colonialism in the food system, because Basically, in colonialism, what is happening is that the colonizing force, the colonizing tribe, comes to the colonized tribe and says that your food is inferior to my food. Okay?
Right.
So you have to eat like we do. So you have to emulate us in every way possible, okay, in order to be accepted. So then we are making decisions not based on science and not based on what's available. We are making decisions based on just notions of superiority. Imagine in an environment where we got together and said, okay, what is the optimum way to eat for all of us? It cannot be just one tribe, whatever the tribe was doing is optimum for everybody, no matter where they are. You are doing that because you happen to be stuck in Northern Europe, where you couldn't grow crops all the time.
Right.
So that's why you are eating that way. Now you go and colonize a land where they're growing crops year round, and you tell them you have to eat meat, and they say, no, it's not true.
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense, right? So it's like imposing one single culture on everybody is going to cause problems. It's going to make no sense. And this is why the food system not only has social injustice built in, it also has racism built in, it also has colonialism built in, because it's just mindlessly adopting something instead of thinking about it and figuring out what is the right way to do things. And
Right.
that's what we are called to do today. Re-examine everything. Okay? Re-examine everything, knowing that you have to solve a problem. And then, use science to figure out how to solve that problem properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think we'll get into the solution more next chapter. Is there any final statement you'd like to say on
The enormous redundancy in how we have been using the earth is also the seed of a solution for all our problems. And know that that solution is within reach for all of us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Rao. And this is almost a setup episode because we talk about the solution in depth in our next episode, which is chapter 15, the vegan rewilding solution. So we hope people join us for that as well. So again, we encourage everyone to read the book. There is a Planet B. It's fantastic. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you again for our next episode. Thank you all so much for joining us.
This has been a podcast from Planet B, where animals are not production units. If you haven't moved here yet, we thank you for visiting.